In today's video, I got the platinum for Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles Morales is a 3 out of 10 difficulty and takes an average of 20 hours with 2 playthroughs, and it also has 50 trophies. We start off the game just helping people around the city before we actually do anything. Now we're protecting this helicopter that's dropping Rhino off to the prison. And after quite a bit of cutscenes, we finally ended up getting to our first tutorial fight thing. And then Rhino ended up getting away, so we had to go into a chase scene to try and get him back. Rhino ended up jumping into this building. The next thing I know, we're riding Rhino through a mall. Once we ended up getting out of the mall, we ended up getting a trophy. After a little while, we ended up getting into another fight, and we had to fight a bunch of prisoners. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no clue how the police are letting this many people escape. Like, I genuinely want to know what they're doing, because this is a whole battlefield out here. After a little bit of fighting, I ended up getting a trophy for getting a 100 hit combo in a row. Right after that, we ended up unlocking this ability called Venom Punch, and also we got into our first miniature boss fight. After absolutely dominating Rhino, and I just realized, for being on the hardest difficulty, this game is actually so easy. And then we ended up meeting the main villain of this game, and they couldn't have made it more obvious that he's the main guy. Like, it was so obvious that even my dumbass could have figured it out.
Stop the cap.
And then Spider-Man himself ended up giving us a gift, and after I opened it, I got another trophy. And then we get our first of many side quests we're probably gonna have to do later on.
Oh my god!
And then we ended up meeting the underground group, and later... And then we ended up meeting the underground group, and later on in the story, they end up being a real pain. And then Miles' friend ended up making this app that can help you track crimes around the city. So this just means I have to do more side quests now. For this first side quest, I ended up having to fix the railway system. I ended up doing a bunch of puzzles and also blowing up explosives by throwing them in the air for some reason. And then after we defused all the bombs and completed the mission, I ended up getting a trophy for fixing the railway system. And then I ended up getting myself a suit mod, which gave me a trophy for equipping one. And then we ended up fighting on a bridge, and the Venom power made all the power cells explode and everything just started collapsing. You can launch people off of the bridge, which is hilarious to me.
Oh my god!
After we defeated every bad guy and got every civilian off the bridge, I ended up getting a trophy hanging by a thread. When Miles and his friend got back to the house, they started working on a new suit, and I'm not gonna lie, this is probably my favorite one in this entire game. A little later into the story, we ended up sneaking into Roxanne's base. We went through all the trouble of fighting a bunch of soldiers and stuff just to grab an iPhone. I'm not even joking. And on the phone, we ended up seeing a video that the Roxanne power cells give you some kind of disease that kills you. And then Miles got the great idea to try and shut it down with his Venom power, and it didn't go too well. There ended up being too much power, so Miles Morales actually exploded. We also got to team up with the Prowler during that fight when we were taking down a bunch of enemies. Once we ended up getting out of the base, I ended up getting a trophy for completing the mission. Later on into the story, we ended up sneaking into the underground secret base. Then we got into a fight scene, so I decided to work on the trophy, do 25 ceiling takedowns. And after about 5 minutes of doing this, I finally ended up getting the trophy for it. Next, I started working on wall takedowns to get the trophy for that. I ended up doing these wall takedowns for about 5 minutes, and then finally I ended up getting the trophy. After we defeated the underground, I ended up finding their secret base, and all I had to do was pull on a statue's sword.
What the fuck?
Once we got to the secret base, I got a trophy for using my Venom Dash on 3 enemies. And then I ended up getting a trophy for completing the mission with the vault. A little after we got out of the vault, I ended up getting into another chase scene, which later on got me a trophy. And then I decided to grind some crimes because I'm gonna have to do 100 of them after the game anyways. And while I was doing the crimes, I ended up getting a trophy for some odd reason. And then in the story, we ended up meeting with Finn at this weird church-like building, and then we just got jumped by Rhino. Then we got kidnapped by Roxanne, and after that they tried interrogating me, and once I didn't answer, they started beating me. And after a few seconds of them beating me, my character got mad and exploded. After I ended up escaping, I got into a boss fight with Rhino and died a few times, but after I beat him, I finally got a trophy. I'm not even joking with you, this boss fight took me like 20 minutes because for some reason they made it super long. After all that went down, we ended up getting into the most useless fight with the Prowler. After we beat up the Prowler, I got a trophy called Family Drama. And then we made it to the last mission. For some reason, we ended up going back in time to view a memory. After we did that very useless part of the story, I ended up getting a trophy for viewing the lab. Then we got to the final boss of the story, and Miles Morales just ended up getting his ass kicked. Once we finally beat the boss, Miles Morales thought he could stop the Fortnite 0 point in his own, and it didn't end very well. And then we got a trophy called Ultimate Sacrifice for beating the game. By the way, I streamed the entire game over on my Twitch. My username is Snowy_man, so I'd really appreciate if you followed. The first thing we did after I beat the game was get all the sound samples, and this was the most tedious thing I ever did. I'm not gonna lie, it's super annoying. After a long and very painful grind, I finally ended up getting all the sound samples. Well, I was just playing the game, messing around, I ended up getting a trophy for crafting a mod. And then I decided to go for the crime trophy, where I had to do every side objective on all the crimes. This trophy is a lot easier to do than the sound one, because the sound one was just stupid. And then I decided to take down some of the enemy bases, just to get them out of the way. While I was doing the camp, I actually ended up getting a trophy for doing 100 stealth takedowns. I'm gonna be honest, by this point, this game's starting to get a little bit tedious for me. It turns out I accidentally did the entire camp without getting caught, and apparently that's a trophy to do so. Shortly after that, I had to redo the base because I didn't complete any of the objectives, and I got a trophy for getting 50 kills with the shock mines. And then I also got a trophy for customizing the lighting on a camera and then also attaching a sticker to the image. And it took me about 8 hours of gameplay to get the easiest trophy in this game. All I had to do was land on a boat. While I was taking down some enemy bases, I got a trophy for defeating 50 enemies while being invisible. And then I made my way into the Roxanne lab. I did both the objectives, and when I completed it, I got a trophy for doing all the labs. Then I just went back to doing the normal side quests again to work on those. And then I got a trophy for doing my very first swing challenge. I didn't even know these were in the game. And then I decided to do another one of the underground secret bases. After I did that base, I decided to go back and do one of the combat challenges just to get an easy trophy.
Stop the cap.
And then I decided to do some missions / side quests, and I ended up getting a trophy called Overcharge. Don't mind the suit, I know it's horrible, I'm not gonna lie. And then I did a quest helping out, I can't remember this girl's name, but I did her quest and it gave me a trophy for it. Then I went back to collecting all the time capsules, and I ended up getting my last one without even realizing it. And then I started doing the stealth challenges, and I'm not gonna lie, these pissed me off a lot, but at the end I finally ended up getting the trophy. I upgraded some of my gear, and I ended up getting a trophy for upgrading 10 items or something like that. And then after even more grinding, I ended up getting a trophy for completing all the challenges. And then these next few trophies are really boring, so I ended up getting this one, and this one. And then I ended up doing the last challenge on the social media app, getting me a new suit and another trophy. After running around a bit, I ended up completing the treasure hunt, getting me a trophy for that, and then I got a trophy for completing all of the districts. And then I got a trophy for scrolling through the entire social media app. And then I ended up getting 2 trophies for praying to both of the goats. Okay, now going into New Game Plus, I actually got a missable trophy where I had to smash into 15 objects while riding Rhino. And then I got a trophy for getting my last upgrade in the skill tree. And then there's a trophy for collecting all the suits in the game. Then after I suffered through the entire story once again, we ended up getting another trophy where I had to beat her in a minigame. And then right when we beat the final mission, I got a trophy for beating New Game Plus, and that led straight to the platinum. And then immediately after that, I got mad, uninstalled the game. Well, that'll be all for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe.